High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home. Don Mattingly. Tucker waits one. Deep left field. Down the line. That ball is out of here. Out of here.
Welcome back to another episode of Table Setters, covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined by my tag team partner, Devin. What's up, dude?
Another rainy night here on Long Island, but a little baseball in the background, Mets, Orioles, and the rain's not affecting that game, so it could be worse.
So as promised last week, we have a very special episode to bring to you today. We're thrilled to welcome Bryan Johansson to the show. Bryan's the owner of The Last Dive Bar, celebrating everything about the Oakland Coliseum and the game of baseball. You can follow The Last Dive Bar on X at Last Dive Bar, and IG at Last Dive Bar as well. And of course, their website, lastdivebar.com. You can also follow him on X, his personal account at Sandlot408. First and foremost, Bryan, we're so happy to have you on here. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. It's a beautiful Monday night. Just kicking back and get ready to watch some baseball in a little bit. So, yeah, man, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, and we were just talking off air about supporting everything you're doing over there at thelastdivebar.com. And really what we brought you on here is to talk about the situation in Oakland. It's really become the interest of really all baseball fans as a cautionary tale of what the machine, the corporation can do to a fan base. And before we dive into that, tell us about your background, your fandom, and more about the Last Dive Bar and how you really got started with this. Because from what I understand, it's a grassroots movement, right?
Yeah, actually, even before that, it started out as just a couple buddies online that were just making banners and just being fans, and in particular being A's fans, right? And that's a very unique type of fandom. And so basically, it all started out with this internet bromance I had with Ramon Laureano, and he didn't have Twitter, so it was like a one-way relationship. And so basically, what happened was he was out for a month. He was tearing it up in 2019. He comes back. We're leading all of baseball and hit by pitches. His first at bat, he gets drilled with like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball right in the back. Throws the bat. TV camera goes right to me, and I'm standing up just screaming, "What the fuck?" And so I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. And the broadcast crew, they didn't cut away from the feed. They let it play, and the next thing you know, the A's Twitter tweeted it out, and it just went like nuts. And so like a week later, my buddy, that's now my business partner, he made a website called WTFBryan.com, and it was just basically a collection of all the memes that were made, the GIFs that were made, and it was like they had a big long like poem, like it was called like Ode to What the Fuck, and it was just this long like chat GBT like just beautiful thing about the stupidest moment, right? And some random dude on Twitter was like, "Yo, can I get that specific what the fuck design on a t-shirt?" And so my partner Paul Bailey, 209 Tacos, he goes, "I think I could do that." And so he figured out how to make a website. He figured out how to basically print a t-shirt, and we started doing that. Next thing you know, we started making money, and we decided to turn over all proceeds to the A's Community Fund, their affiliated charities. And we just started churning out design after design and started working with players, working with the broadcast team. And since 2019, we've donated over $250,000.
Wow.
And so, and then the rest of the proceeds that we get goes into like community events, throwing, huge ragers like we did Fans Fest, reverse boycotts, protests, and just community engagement events as well. So we donate a lot of our time to, charitable organizations and the work that they do within the community. And so we're all over like East Bay, South Bay. We've gone all the way up to Sacramento. And so we've done a lot of like shows and community events like all throughout like California. And that's how it started. And then we eventually rebranded as Baseball's Last Dive Bar, because at the time we were working with the A's a lot, before everything happened. And they were like, "Yeah, you need to change your name, because it's like for us to continue working with you, like we can't put your name in a Google search and all that." And so we changed from WTF Bryan to last dive bar, and that was based off of Jack Nicas' New York Times article, and he was my good buddy. We became friends, bonded over Ramon Laureano, and so he did this article, and in there was a line that compared the Coliseum to a dive bar when all other stadiums are like cocktail lounges. And I seen that line, baseball's last dive bar, and I was like, man, that's beautiful. So we ended up putting it on a banner. That banner went like super fucking nuts. Players were buying it. Everybody was buying it. It was going like wild. And so we ended up becoming federally trademarked. And then April 19th happened. A's announced Vegas, and then we said, "Fuck it." We're Hulk Hogan dropping the leg on Macho Man. That's it. Good guys become the bad guys. When really we're actually the good guys, but and then it's been history ever since then, just exposing this guy.
That's awesome how it just kind
So
of
that's it in
happened.
a nutshell.
Yeah, just how that
Yeah.
happened kind of naturally and progressed over time is a really cool story. I want to talk to you about what happened just recently. The last Battle of the Bay is the most kind of recent chapter in this book. Obviously, a controversial Giants 4-2 win to close it out, but really that's kind of beside the point right now. We've seen lots of fans of
No,
other
it's not.
teams.
That was a horrible, horrible ball call. That was or strike call. That was fucking ball four. Like that was horrible. But yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I agree, and Katse got his money's worth at least. But now I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you about like the opposing fans. We've seen the sell sign all over these different ballparks. I'm a Mets fan, and we just were playing you guys a few days ago when we saw those flags in there. A lot of opposing fans have
Yeah.
kind of joined your cause or supported you guys. I've heard a lot of announcers of other teams kind of going to bat for you guys. What about the Giants fans though? Because that is a true rivalry. Um, how have they been, especially this past weekend, with all this going on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my 40s, right? So I grew up in the Billy Ball and Bash Brothers era, and back then, the A's were the kings of baseball, right? And the Giants were like the redheaded stepchild, and the roles have kind of reversed since then. But um, Giants fans, they've always been pretty dope. You know what I mean? Like, there's a like a love-hate relationship, kind of like a sibling rivalry, but it's always fun. You always come back and eat at the dinner table together. You know what I mean? Like with on a drop of a dime, we're like, let's unite the Bay, and Giants fans were like, let's fucking go. And we ended up having a reverse boycott in Oracle Park, and that shit was wild. I think that was like the second loudest "sell the team" chant I've ever heard. You know what I mean? And so outside of the reverse boycott, that was one of the loudest things, that we've heard as far as selling the team. And, I think that's just a testament to the area. This is a Bay Area thing. This affects the entire Bay Area. This affects that dynamic between Giants and A's fans. Because I mean, think about it. That stadium at Howard Terminal, that would have been face to face with Oracle Park. You would have had two of the greatest baseball stadiums in all of baseball facing each other across the water, across the bay, San Francisco Bay, and so I mean that would have been iconic for the sport. And so it was I did a little news spot on Saturday, and I said what this is like going to a funeral of somebody that's very, very close to you, a mother, father, brother, sister, son, or daughter. Like for a lot of people, like that's how much baseball is in people's lives. And so it's like going to an open casket funeral, like every single day. You know what I mean? You leave the funeral and you're like, okay, tomorrow I got to go back to the funeral. I mean, that's what it's like living as an A's fan right now, and especially going to the games. And so it was the most like somber Battle of the Bay I've ever been to. It was emotional. People might have been wearing Giants jerseys, but it felt like they were A's fans. You know what I mean? Everybody was saying "fuck John Fisher." Everybody was saying "sell the team." There was Giants fans cheering, "Let's go Oakland." Because I mean, this is just fucked up what MLB is allowing to happen with the A's. This is what gets. Make no mistake about it. This is an MLB thing. 29 owners voted for the A's to relocate. They had that athletic piece today with John Middleton saying for the Phillies, talking about all this bullshit about it's all about the fans and the city. And if you're not in it for those reasons, you shouldn't be an owner. Motherfucker, you led the goddamn 3-owner committee to relocate the A's. And you're coming out and have the nerve to put that quote out there? It's the most disingenuous shit I've ever heard. You know what I mean? It's a straight up lie. It's a straight up hypocritical statement. The guy's full of shit. And it just shows you all these billionaires are full of shit, and they're complicit because they one day might need to extort their community for a renovation in their stadium, and or so they can relocate and extort another community. And they need this precedent set. This is a billionaires club. They need this precedent set. They cannot have this thing fall through in Las Vegas. And so they're just turning a blind eye to everything and anyone that is talking about this. You know what I mean? This is on a national level. When you got Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, Foul Territory, literally coming out and doing a live show at our Fans Fest. You got Damon Amendola. You got all the local radio people. I mean, you got The Athletic. You got Forbes. You got every fucking news publication talking about how fucking horrible of a move this is and how it doesn't make any sense. And now you have fucking broadcasters from every single opposing team, whether it's in the A's stadium or in their own stadium, just talking shit about this move and also honoring the Coliseum better than the A's have honored it ever. I mean, today on Baseball is Dead, you know, Jared was just blown the fuck away that the big three, Mulder, Hudson, and Zito, are not in the A's Hall of Fame. Well, they just barely decided to do that in like 2018, 2019. You know what I mean? Because they don't think about stuff like that. They don't think about the history. They don't think about what makes this game amazing, what's made this organization historic. They don't think about any of that shit, and they could care less about what the fans think or any input whatsoever on the fans. They've never done anything fans first. They've never done that. They don't give a shit. They told employees, throw your own party if you want to go an away party. They're literally letting go of Vince Cotroneo at the end of the season, who's been with the A's for 18, 19 fucking years. You know what I mean? And all those guys, none of them are going to be coming back. You know, the in-stadium personality, she just got her notice like a couple weeks ago that she was leaving. It was just, here you go. Here's the fucking, you're done. Peace out. She's been with the A's for almost 20 years. You know what I mean? It's disgusting on a level that you can't really articulate how fucked up this is.
So as far as
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, for sure, dude. We love the passion, and we completely agree. On an episode here, we've gone on John Fisher from the East Coast perspective. It's nice to have the inside perspective of someone as a diehard athletics fan. And you mentioned the players and having like really the pulse of the fan base, but how have the A's players reacted since the move's announcement? And you mentioned the past players, the big three, but the current roster you're following every day through the media. What's it like with the atmosphere with the fan base? I mean, and also the roster.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the former players speak out, you know, about this move, going all the way back to Trevor May and stuff like that. But you have, just Miguel Andujar just had cleats dedicated to the fans in the Coliseum. You know what I mean? In their own little ways, right? Because they can only do so much because they're under contract with the Oakland A's through, you know, MLB. So they got to be careful with what they say and what they do. But they're in their own ways. They're showing their support in small little ways, speaking out when they can. You know, we posted all the videos of like Mark Ellis and Piscotty that happened over the weekend. Dallas Braden had a bunch of stuff. Dallas Braden is now cutting his pregame activities so much to a point where he's enabling himself to go in the parking lot and be with the fans because that's what he needs as a broadcaster to help process this move. And it's also what the fans need too, because the A's themselves are not going to give that to this fan base. Dave Cavill, the president, at the start of the year, when they took down the Rooted in Oakland signs, said that this year is about celebrating 56 plus years in Oakland. It's about celebrating the fans. It's about celebrating the employees. And yet they have done absolutely nothing to do that. And so you've seen certain current players, former players that are doing anything and everything they can within their contracts to basically show that they're there, show some empathy, show some feeling and emotion about this. But you can see this, it affects all of them. I mean, if you see the opposing broadcasters speak on the ways that they're speaking about the A's, imagine what our own broadcasters and employees are feeling and going through. And so, you know, yeah, you know, you can't expect too much from people that are currently under contract, regardless of their position in the A's. But in little subtle ways, they're showing it, and those subtle ways mean the world. And trust me, we notice them, and when we see them, we post them. And we're going to continue to do that, you know, as season closes out, you know.
Yeah, we saw Braden walking around with the wiffle ball bat and making some headlines there, and like joining tailgates with the fans. That's been awesome to see. And honestly, he'll live in forever lore and Athletics history, the perfect game on Mother's Day and all that stuff. So he really, to me, embodies as an outside fan of baseball. He embodies what the Oakland Athletics are about, that free spirit of just being a part of the fan base. It's definitely one of those things where you recognize really the relationship with the fans and the players.
Yeah, and Dallas is man, he's on a pretty deep and intimate level with the fan base. I mean, that guy, he always does the views from the office, and he's got some dope ass shoes like every single game, right? But he has one pair in particular, right, that he debuted during the Bay Bridge Series Spring Training Edition when the Giants were playing at the Coliseum, and he plopped his feet up there. And on one side, on the left side, you had the left field retired players, and then you had me in my pin vest, right? And it basically said "Last Dive Bar" on the shoe, and then on the right shoe, it was the retired players up on the right side of Mount Davis, and it had "Right Field Will." He's one of the biggest A's fans, if not the biggest A's fan. He goes to every single game. He goes to like 6 or 7 away series. He part-time PA announces at the Stockton Ports, the minor league affiliate of the A's. This guy goes to Sturgeon game. He goes to like Dublin Leprechaun, the Pecos League or whatnot. Like this guy goes to everything. You know what I mean? And so he's got him on the right shoe. So like that's one of the examples I was telling you about. It's a subtle. Wasn't so subtle because he posted it everywhere.
Right.
To let the fans know that he's there, he cares. And Dallas.
I think we lost your mic for a sec. I think we lost your mic for a second. I think we're trying to get Bryan back in here to are you there, bud?
Yeah, sorry, I was getting a phone call.
I hear you. Muted it for a sec.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I was getting a phone call. My bad. I was like, wait, can they hear me or not?
No worries.
Cut that out. Cut that
out. Bryan, I think I know the answer to this question I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You mentioned the current players and how they do kind of try the best they can without getting themselves in trouble to kind of support the fans of Oakland. And I'm sure you guys, just like any fan base, have become somewhat attached to some of these guys, if not all of them. But when they're not here next year, when they're playing in Sacramento, is there any part of you that's cheering for this team still?
Man, I think that's yet to be seen. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel. I think as I sit here today talking to you guys, I say, fuck no. I'm done with MLB. I'm done with baseball. Not baseball, because we're still gonna be sponsors of the Stockton Ports. We're looking forward to partnering with the Oakland Ballers, the Independent Pioneer League out here, and so baseball's still gonna live on. I mean, it's been my passion since I was 4. And the A's, I mean, they're still gonna be tattooed up on my arm, but I can't support somebody that literally stuck a knife in my heart and then just kept twisting it and laughing and just, when they pulled it out, they just found another, location to stab me in. And so, no, I mean, I don't think so. But again, like it's been 15 months since they announced Vegas and they still don't have financing. And so this is John Fisher. And if he's proven anything, that motherfucker can't put a shovel anywhere in the ground. I don't think he even knows where his shovel's at, so a lot can happen. I mean, December's going to be a big month. Supposedly that's when a lot of the development agreement and shit's supposed to be released or something like that. So, we'll see. But I mean, it's John Fisher. So a lot can happen. And if they're in Sacramento, that's better than them physically being in Vegas, I guess. But it doesn't, they can't just stay there. They can't just like, okay, we stay there. That's not how MLB works. You can't just, we're going to stay here and become the Sacramento A's. It's got to go back to a vote. It's got to, you know what I mean? And who knows if he'll even get to the end of that 3-year stretch run. I mean, at any point in time, owners, you just need 23 of them can sit there and they can say, no, we're done with this. And you're no longer an owner in the MLB, so who knows? Anything can happen. I mean, this is unprecedented. We don't see relocations in baseball. You know what I mean? There's been one relocation, 55 years or some shit like that. And that was an international thing. That was the Expos. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, you go back to when, both New York teams took it and went to California, but that's a long time ago. So it's unprecedented. It's different money now. So we talked about John Fisher.
And look at that. Look what happened. The Giants and the Dodgers moved out west. And what did MLB do to that area? They gave him the Mets.
Yeah.
The Mets colors consist of Dodger blue and Giants orange. You know what I mean? Everybody talks about, well, the A's left Philadelphia. The A's didn't fucking leave Philadelphia. The Mack brothers, at the end of their tenure, were horrible fucking owners. They physically and literally bankrupt the Philadelphia Athletics, and they left. And they had a horrible owner in Johnson when they were in Kansas City. He was one of the worst owners in baseball. And then Finley came in and relocated him. Why? For money, right? And so, I mean, this isn't about cities and cities and fans and fans. This is 110% owners and MLB. What MLB allows their owners to do. That's it. There's no debate on that. This has nothing to do with fans. This has nothing to do with cities. You know, cities are fucking dumb as shit sometimes and are allowing these billionaires to extort their communities for money. But like, this ain't about fans and cities. This leaving or going. This is all about owners, greed, not investing into their product, right? Like the Mack brothers in Philadelphia, and teams having to leave as a result of the ineptitude and the incompetence, selfishness, whatever you want to say of the owners. That, you know, it's the owners, you know.
So as far as, obviously the A's were in this situation and they were, like you mentioned, getting stabbed by the MLB, the corporation that is making money, and they were left out to pasture. I would feel like this is a cautionary tale for other franchises on the fringe right now of potential. I mean, I look at Tampa Bay. I know there's conversations about building a stadium in downtown Tampa, but we know that MLB wants to expand to like Nashville. We hear that. And unless they're going to bring an expansion franchise, some of these other franchises, I mean, if Oakland moves, it truly means that no franchise is safe.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you look at the situation in Oakland. I mean, they had everything was filled out. Like they had environmental, they had everything. They had a BCDC vote. They had everything they needed, and there was a $97 million funding gap for an $11 billion development. John Fisher says, I've done everything I can in Oakland. Motherfucker, you're not offering just a stadium only. That could be built within 18 fucking months anywhere in Oakland or even around in the Bay Area, the East Bay. You know what I mean? The guy never offered up $850 million of team equity to stay in Oakland. The guy chose to leave, period. You know, if he would have offered even half of what he's offering to be in Vegas to stay in Oakland, like this is a done deal. You know what I mean? It was a relocation that never needed to happen. And it happened to the wrong fan base because A's fans are a different fucking breed. You know what I mean? You don't have fan bases that throw their own fans fest with 70 vendors, 20,000 people, multiple stages, national broadcasts, several ex-A's players. You don't get that with other fan bases. And part of it is because their teams fucking throw fans fest. But you know what I mean? You don't get reverse boycotts and stuff like that. You don't get on a drop of a dime. We got 27,000 people in the Oakland Coliseum on a Tuesday night. You don't get that. He fucked with the wrong people, and we're going to fucking keep kicking him in the fucking nuts over and over and over again. And we can do it more creatively than anybody else because we got people that make everything, anything and everything. We have such a talented fan base as far as what we can do and stuff like that. We can articulate our anger in ways that other people can't. You know what I mean? You got like companies and baseball companies like Barstool and all these guys do all this stuff, and we're all self-made. You know, we make our own graphics, we make our own gifts, we make our own clips and videos. We network ourselves and build the connections ourselves, and so the resources at our fingertips are endless. And we've basically diverted all of that into fucking going after John Fisher and the executive front office and the decision that they made to walk away from such a historic fucking franchise.
Yeah, so John Fisher is obviously first and foremost to blame, but how much blame do you put on Rob Manfred for this relocation? Because it really felt like an inside job. That from the beginning, they circled Vegas. We saw what happened with the Raiders. We obviously see the Golden Knights. It was a hot spot that baseball wanted to bring a team there. What's the blame level on Rob Manfred as far as Oakland Athletics fans go?
He's a fucking idiot because as recent as 2019, the guy said that it would be a tragedy if we ever moved away from Oakland. Major League Baseball belongs in Oakland. And then he completely did a 180 and acted like he never fucking said that. If they were smart, they would utilize a market like Las Vegas to bring in a fresh, new, young owner that is flashy and the big lights and the entertainment value. That ain't John Fisher. You literally are putting the worst owner ever in the history of fucking baseball and arguably all of sports in Las fucking Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. This motherfucker doesn't even know the names of his own team. That's who you're bringing to Las Vegas. Las Vegas deserves so much more than John Fisher. And so he made a huge mistake, Rob Manfred did, in choosing John Fisher to usher MLB baseball into Las Vegas. Like, if I was in Vegas, man, I'd be like, what the fuck? We don't want this guy. Like, get this. Like, there's some accounts like Vital Vegas, and there's some big influencers out there that are speaking up about this. But like, I would be like, hell no. Like, I want baseball, but like, I don't want John Fisher. And so Manfred's is just a fucking idiot. And like, I know these guys are all billionaires and he works for them and he's the puppet of these billionaires, but like, grow a set of fucking balls. Like, do something that like nobody else does. Like, speak up, you know? Yeah, you know, I mean, it's so regrettable, you know, and rest in peace to Peter Seidel, but like, Peter Seidler or whatever with the Padres. Like, if that dude didn't die, like, he was a no vote. And supposedly he had 7 owners that were going to vote no. I don't know who those 7 owners are. Nobody knows, but the rumor is so much that it's like damn near truth that he was going to vote against this. And I somewhat believe it because look at how he was as an owner. Look what he did for the Padres franchise and the organization. He turned that whole thing around. You know what I mean? And look at their fan base. Their fan base is very similar to A's as far as creativeness, articulation, and what they do with their fandom and stuff like that. A's fans are just the same. I mean, you wouldn't know it by if you look at the attendance. But again, the attendance is a direct reflection of how the owner is. You know, and if there's lack of investment in the team and the fan base and the product in and around the field, like you're not gonna have people at your stadium, you know, and you can look at every other team when they start acting like a John Fisher, attendance falls, you know.
Yeah, and seeing those pictures of the Oakland Coliseum this past weekend with the 37,000 something fans packed, like that just goes to show you when the fan base is excited about something, even if in this case it's for the wrong reason, like the fans will show up. But I got to ask you, like for anyone listening who might not be familiar with what happens from here, the Oakland Coliseum itself, like what is the future of the Oakland Coliseum as far as what might be going on there without the A's?
Yeah, so as soon as next year, we're gonna have professional sports there. So you got the Oakland Roots, who's like a super popular football club, soccer club in Oakland. They're like one level below MLS. They'll be there, and there's buzz for that. It's gonna be 15,000 capacity. If they get a lot of reserve like tickets for season tickets, they'll probably expand that and have to reconfigure how they're gonna put people in the stands. But the Oakland Roots are gonna play there, and they got a mosaic logo that's just like off the chain. And so it's like if you take A's fans and Raider fans and you combine them, you get Oakland Roots fans. Like these guys are crazy. They're waving fucking 20-foot flags all game long. They're chanting all game long. I mean, if you ever been to like some sort of international soccer event, that's what it is, like on a smaller scale with the Oakland Roots. And they're an organization that understand what it takes to be successful as a sports franchise. You know, they put the community first, they put the team first, they do things with integrity. They don't mislead and misguide the fan base. You know what I mean? They're upfront. Shit, they allowed ownership stake in their team. And so you have people that are owners of, just like you and me, of the Oakland Roots. And so they'll be there all of 2015 or 2025. And then after that, it's up in the air. They could potentially extend if their modular stadium isn't built in this Malibu lot that's on the Coliseum property, like right next to it. So they can potentially play there longer. But you got the AASEG group just bought both, halves of the Coliseum property. So the A's just sold it to them for 125 million. And so within days that the first payment should be going through. And so, yeah, you got a huge multi-billion-dollar investment group of very powerful people that'll be there. And so if something happens with the A's in Vegas and it doesn't come to fruition, they are the type of people that if the team went up for sale, like they would be the ones that could be there and say, MLB, you can play here. We're powerful enough to build you whatever the fuck we need to build. And they're investing $5 billion into East Oakland right there.
So I know what we're talking about with John
there's a lot-
Fisher, and
yeah.
there's no belief that he's going to invest and spend the money because you guys already saw the true character of the man. So I'll reframe the question. If you were sitting in Rob Manfred's seat, or you have power to regulate to make sure something happens, what would you do to put in place to make sure that there's competitive balance, that you have to put the money back on the field? You mentioned other teams like the Marlins, or, with John Fisher not spending for the A's, but there's other examples of it where they're pocketing the money. What is a good framework for, the infrastructure of MLB to make sure that these owners spend? Is it getting rid of these owners if they have a couple of infractions against their name, a couple of years where they're not investing?
Yeah, man, there's a lot of shit I would do that would never happen. I mean, territorial rights, goodbye, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? The blackouts, get the fuck out of here. Make baseball accessible to every single person. Grow your game, right? Market on a level that's never been marketed before. I would expose the players that want to be in front of everybody. It would be way more interactive towards the fans. It'd be geared towards the fans. It'd be fans first minded. You know what I mean? And I would say, if you're gonna be a fucking owner, here's the guidelines. Like, you can't do certain things, and you can't spend 20-30 million dollars on a professional roster. You know what I mean? So there'd be a floor in my mind. Like, there's got to
Right.
be a floor. Like, you got to be like, the A's have never spent over $100 million on a single fucking roster. They've never given $100 million contract to a single fucking player in the history of the organization. I mean, that's embarrassing. That shouldn't be allowed. And so, like, there's got to be some sort of requirements that if you're a billionaire owner, you have to invest X amount of dollars in your team to even be considered in this league. And if you don't, we're selling. You're selling. We're getting you out, and you're selling. That's it. You know what I mean? There'd be a lot more transparency. You know what I mean? There would be more forward-facing owners. You know what I mean? There's fans of majority of the teams that have never seen the face of their owner. You got Peter at the San Diego. He'd be at away games, walking around talking to visiting Padre fans in Seattle or wherever they're playing. You know what I mean? John Fisher, outside of this year, has never done a single fucking interview as the owner of the Oakland A's. Never, not once. No public interviews, no public shit. Only when he had this Vegas stuff, he started doing interviews, and that's been great because he's exposing himself as the fucking idiot that we know he is. And so the guy's never at games. If you know what he looks like, I've seen him at games before. I watched TV and saw him sitting there, and everything like that. But, like, there's no excuse for you to be hiding. You're a billionaire. You own a baseball team. It's entertainment. Guess what, motherfucker? You got to do some interviews, and you have to have some sort of accountability for the decisions that you're making, you know? But there'd be a threshold. And if you cross that threshold, get the fuck out of baseball. Fans deserve better. The baseball product needs to be at a higher level than what we get from some of these owners. You know, it's just, there should be no place in the fucking game for people like, the owner of even the Mariners is a piece of shit. There's so many fucking owners that are pieces of shit that don't deserve to own a goddamn team.
I love what you said about the
Fans.
anti-blackout stuff, because I've been talking about that forever. And I remember back in the day when YouTube was first kind of breaking out and the MLB was removing clips. I never understood that. Don't you want people to use it as a gateway to watch the games and view the stars? Because I look at, especially MLB, the games have a certain shelf life that if you put the full games on YouTube or make them free past them being live, there's really no harm. But obviously it's being restructured with the lack of cable and the cord cutting that's happening. So you're onto something with that, because that's how you make new fans, and new fans are not sitting and abiding by blackout rules. And that's, to me, it's archaic. And that's the reason why the game is in where it is as far as making new fans. And they're getting there as far as changing the rules and making it a little bit more fast paced. But I mean, I can't wait till there's no blackouts. I mean, even there's some markets where they don't even have a team. I think it's in like the Missouri area where there's no team, but you're blacked out from the Royals, you're blacked out from the Cardinals, you're blacked out from 4 or 5 teams. And what happens if you want to just watch the games? It's insane to me.
Yeah. Or what happens if you're not at home and you subscribe 100 and whatever fucking dollars it is to subscribe to MLB, and you're literally driving to work or driving home from work. You can't watch your own home team on your phone because there's a blackout, right? You have to
Right.
watch it on TV. You can't even watch it through your phone. So it's like you pay for this stuff and you don't even have access to your own team in your own market. Like,
Yep.
that's just fucking mind boggling. And, like, I would want every team to be big. I would want every team to be popular. I would want to see, like right now, I live in the South Bay. There's no A stuff. Why? Because territorial rights. Giants can't, they own that. So the A's can't come and market in here and sell everything. That's just not the way baseball works. And it's been like that for over 100 fucking years. It's archaic. And if they opened up the game to everybody, and if they had people in marketing that were just innovative and forward thinkers and just well-rounded, like internally in their brain, they would see the pulse of what everybody's posting, what everybody's doing, and they would get ideas on how they need to market their game, and they would be able to market it better, come up with programs within the league and marketing programs that all the fans are like, yeah, this is dope. MLB's doing this shit. Oh, we were doing this shit last week. You know what I mean? And it gets people engaged and involved and feels like they're a part of something. And if they had that on such a mass scale, I mean, baseball would be like football. It would be like basketball. Internationally, it'd be like soccer. You know what I mean? Like they're horrible at marketing their own fucking product.
Devin and
because
I
you got a
talk
bunch
about
of-
Adam Silver. Like Adam Silver is the perfect example of how to really revolutionize your game. Like it may not be for us, all the jerseys and all the Knicks have 4 or 5 jerseys and it's not for us. But as far as forward thinking, the game has grown leaps and bounds and Silver has taken over, and they need that type of thinking where he's kind of 3 steps ahead of everybody as far as other leagues go. I mean, obviously Goodell has a head start with the NFL, but I love what Silver's done with the NBA.
Well, yeah, just market your stars, like you're saying. Like Adam Wainwright was actually on a Cardinals broadcast recently, I believe, and he said something along the lines of like, if there's anything I could fix or I would fix if I was in the commissioner spot, it would be to make sure, like when someone's watching a baseball game, when the commercials come on, just like if you're watching a football game, every commercial seems to have an NFL star in it when you're watching it. That can't be said for baseball, unfortunately, unless you're watching like MLB Network. But if it's just a local broadcast, that's not really what you're getting, or even like an ESPN broadcast. It just seems like they've always been a step behind. They seem to be able to market like Shohei Ohtani and not much else other than that. But I want to talk about, we've talked about the front office so much, and we could probably do a 2-3 hour show on it, to be honest, with everything that's gone on. But I do want to give a little love to the product on the field before we get you out of here. So just a few questions about the actual team. Obviously not a playoff level team yet, but they've clearly taken a step forward, if not a couple steps forward this year. What do you attribute that to? Like when you watch them, they're playing really well in the second half, but why is that? If you had to give credit to something or someone, where would that credit be put?
Yeah, I mean, it goes with that front office, the player personnel side of things. You know what I mean? They've always had a knack for finding talent and bringing talent in, right? This is the first year that they've had, somewhat of a decent draft. We've had some pretty forgettable draft picks of last several years, but you know what I mean? Like they're really good at bringing in talent and spotting talent, and then that talent gets here and they shine. But the problem is as an A's fan, you don't get too excited. I mean, we do, but it's like, okay, their stock's getting a little bit more valuable. If it gets a little bit more valuable, they gone. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, Mason Miller. I mean, this guy is the best closer in baseball. Like we haven't seen this ever. Like this guy gasses 103 miles an hour. I mean, like Shea Langeliers is one of the best catchers, like top 3 catchers in the league. You know what I mean? This guy, Brent Rooker. The team's good. They're exciting. It reminds me of like 2017 going into 2018, and then we explode in like 2019. Like this team has the potential to do that if they improve, pitching and everything like that. Like they have a good foundation to build off of. The problem is when you have an owner that doesn't want to cash in on what they find. It's cool. It lasts for a little bit, but then it's gone. You know what I mean? And really, like the players and the play on the field, it really doesn't matter right now. I mean, we're looking at potentially the last days ever in Oakland. To me, the history and the memories of this organization far, far outweigh anything that could ever happen on the field of play this year. As much as I love, like I'm player focused, player oriented. We've done campaigns after campaigns around numerous players of the past, and worked with tons of players and stuff like that. Like, you can't. It's hard to really get invested into the players, especially this year, knowing that not only like are you looking at guys' stock value that's getting a little bit to a point where they're going to be traded, but they're all going to be gone after this year anyway. So,
right.
but like Zach Geloff, man, like I love that dude. I love his entire family. Like his family are just diehard A's fans. Like literally, his dad proposed to his mom at the Coliseum, and then for their like 30 wedding year anniversary, they literally redid that same photo. Like God, man, I love these players, man. I love them, and I wish we could be getting to know them more, uh, like we would be able to in the past. But I mean, unfortunately, it's like John Fisher's got in the way of every like excitement we could potentially have with anybody on our team. But we got dudes in the minors. I think Nick Krutz or whatever, he got promoted up to Midland today. Like we got dudes that just got drafted that are already headed up to um, Double A. You know what I mean? Like there's dudes that could probably be on a roster by the end of the year. That literally got drafted months ago. And so it's like, um, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's like it's really hard to get excited about the talent on the field when it's all going to be gone at the end of this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we, obviously we wanted to talk about Mason Miller and the experience that's been this year. It's been fun to watch all over the league and just the flame throwing reliever. It's very rare. I mean, obviously, as a Yankee fan, Mariano Rivera was this consistency that you took for granted a little bit. Cause I mean, I'm watching Clay Holmes have 10 blown saves, and that's it's not the norm. You know what I mean? As far as Mariano Rivera is not the norm, I should say. And Mason Miller feels like he's going to be an elite reliever, at least for this short burst here, which there were some conversations about him being dealt for a huge package. And I'm sure that the fan base, like you said, in the immediate, they're thinking about 2024, but he's a valuable piece to build a team around. He really is.
Yeah. I mean, he'll probably get traded next year. I mean, who knows what the trade market's going to be like in Sacramento, West Sacramento. But like, yeah, if they should have traded him this year when his stock was the highest, and they could have, restocked their entire farm system. But, from what I heard, the asking price was way too high, and people didn't want to do that. But like, if this was a normal year, there'd be banners everywhere for Mason Miller. We'd have a shirt for him. We'd be donating money to a charity of his choice. Like he would get all the roses thrown at him, and a lot of these players would have banners, and the players know that, and they know that, and they understand that, and so it's like, everybody's like, do this for the players and stuff like that. It's like, I'm sorry, I know the players are smart enough to understand what the fuck is going on. And I'm sorry, but fans are what make this game what it is. If you had no fans, you wouldn't have baseball as a business. So fans are the most important fucking thing ever. More than players, more than anything, because without fans, nothing is possible. We're the ones that create the history by making nostalgia, by always bringing it up, by always celebrating it, by always wanting more from our organizations and from the game of baseball. And if you didn't have that, then nothing would just cease to exist. And so this year, especially this last year, should have been all about the fans. Unfortunately, we had to create the noise and create the attention on it because the organization wasn't doing it. And so, yeah, I feel bad for the players because these players on this year didn't get to experience like what we would do for players. Like Lawrence Butler, like that dude, he was on such a fucking tear. Like, man, there would have been banners for days for Lawrence Butler. You know what I mean? We'd be making memes and gifs and everything, and celebrating the play on the field. But unfortunately, you got a huge wedge in between the players and the fans, and that's John Fisher. And it's the executive front office.
So before I let Devin ask the last question, we'll get you out. And again, we appreciate so much of your time here. Looking at when the Dodgers, and I know it's a completely different landscape, but let's talk utopian, where the Dodgers left 1957, the Mets emerged 1962. Is there a world where you can see perfect things align, the Vegas things falls through, or maybe there's a groundswell that shows that Oakland really wants a team back here, that maybe they get an expansion franchise? Is that too far-fetched for you to think about 5 years down the line?
No, I mean, that's my pie in the sky right there. Like, the expansion team would be the Oakland A's, right? And you let John Fisher take his organization to Las Vegas under a different name. Because if you're going to put John Fisher in Las Vegas, yeah, rebrand the damn team so at least Vegas can call it their own and it starts fresh in Vegas. You leave everything, the history and everything behind, in Oakland, which is the right thing to do because this organization has shown that they don't give a fuck about the history. They don't give a fuck about the players. They don't give a fuck about the fans. They don't give a shit about anything. They're actively have memos saying, do not show anything that says rooted in Oakland. You know what I mean? Players are getting in trouble for showing that their allegiance to the Coliseum and the fan base, and don't glorify it too much. You know what I mean? Like literally, I've been working with a guy that wrote a story called Goodbye Oakland, right? And it got a lot of views. It was super, popular. And there's a whole video and everything. And he's going to make it into a children's book, right? Well, that guy was the producer, the in-game production producer. And he had, for the 2013 playoffs, it was narrated by Roy Steele, the voice of God. And it was all about celebrating the Oakland Coliseum, Oakland, the grittiness, the just making that association with the fans and the citizens of Oakland and the fans of the team to the team itself. And Lou Wolf himself pulled the video because he said it glorified Oakland. Like, that's your owner of your team. So when I hear the shit from Middleton coming out today about owners have no business being owners if they don't like put the fans in the city first, like that shit just makes me throw up in my mouth. So my pie in the sky would be the expansion team is the Oakland A's if that were to ever happen, or that just dies with Oakland. John Fisher goes, rebrands the team, and that's it. You know what I mean? I'd rather have the A's never be after this year than to have them go over to Las Vegas and stuff like that. Like, but again, rebrands cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. And John Fisher's the cheapest son of a bitch in the world, and that's why he won't rebrand, because it costs fucking money.
You're probably right. Bryan, I just got to say, the passion and knowledge you've brought on the show tonight has been fantastic. Before we get you out of here, I just want to try to leave it on a positive note. If you think back, what would your favorite memory be as either an A's fan, or maybe your favorite memory from actually being in the Oakland Coliseum? One or the other, or both. Just give us a snapshot of what that would be.
Oh, man, that's an easy one. It's growing up in the 80s, seeing those Bash brothers, seeing Ricky Henderson, Dave Henderson, Terry Steinbach, Carney, Mike Gallego, Tony Phillips, uh, that's it right there. And going to the games with my dad, going to the games with my mom, sitting in 123, sitting next to Richard and his wife, this older couple he had a pin vest, and every single Saturday he would let me pick a pin off the left side of his vest because the right side he didn't trade. But so that's what got me into pin collecting and everything. And then walking around that Coliseum concourse with that wide open center field because Mount Davis wasn't there, seeing the beautiful scenery out there, and just walking around buying the merch, going up to the right when you walk in and getting the game day program, your foam finger, and the guy that would, he's standing right there, and getting your first bag of peanuts, eating those all games, the fresh Cokes from the fountains, just the smell of the wet concrete, smell of the fresh grass, Clay Woods Field, which is immaculate. Like, Jesus Christ, it's immaculate. They're literally pick up sunflower seeds before the game starts, so the field is literally pristine. It's the broadcasters, man. It's the Ken Koraks, the Vince Catronios, the Dallas Bray, and the Ray Fosse, rest in peace. The Roy Steeles, the Monty Moores. It's the iconic calls that you can just hear their voices when you close your eyes, and you can feel the cold Oakland air. Like, it's the lights underneath the moon. You know what I mean? It's the 20-game win streaks. It's the white cleats. It's the Raleigh finger handlebar mustaches. It's the first team to ever play under the lights in the history of baseball. The orange baseballs. It's Harvey the Rabbit that used to bring baseballs up. It's Stomper, man. It's Charlie O, the fucking mule. Even Finley, as cheap as he was, man. That era, only team outside of the Yankees to win 3 straight. Only team other than the Yankees to go twice consecutive, 3 times, 2 different times. It's the Moneyball era, because it's like, yeah, that owner was cheap, and Schott and Hoffman were cheap, but like, goddamn, that team won 100 games, and God, they were fun to watch. You know what I mean? Moeller, Hudson, Zito, like, fuck a pitch clock. Like, these guys were faster than the pitch clock era. You know what I mean? Like, it's watching that. It's the perfect game of Dallas Braden. It's the Manaea no hitter. It's the Mike Fiers no hitter when there was a light delay. It's the games that lasted 20 innings, and you get out of the park at like 1 something in the morning. It's the fans sitting next to you, your favorite usher. man, it's fucking baseball, man. It's what should have always been sold and marketed to the fan base. It's what should have already always been believed in by ownership, but it's something that's going to carry with me and drive me to continue to kick John Fisher in the fucking nuts. And what keeps me continuing to honor that past and honor that history. And I always say Last Dive Bar is like a mirror. When you see Last Dive Bar on social, you see our products online, like, I want you to see that and see a reflection of your fandom, your memories, the history that you built with your loved ones at that stadium. Like, that's what I want Last Dive Bar to be. And that's what we work our asses off to try and do. And, and I would urge any and all fans to speak up against your own ownership and support other fans of other fan bases. We've seen it with the Sell Flag Tour, and so I think fan bases are stronger when fan bases are united and want better for themselves and better for this league, because baseball deserves that.
Beautifully said. I mean, honestly, how can you not be romantic about just baseball in general? We're all fans of different teams, but we all love the sport. And again, we appreciate everything you've done with the Last Dive Bar and you taking the time to talk about it here with us tonight for almost an hour here. And I'll give you the platform to get all your stuff out there, the future plans for the Last Dive Bar, what you have planned for the future post Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, man. No, we let's see. Who fucking knows? I don't know, man. It. We got the last game of the year. It's gonna be sold out. Unfortunately, they're not opening up Mount Davis because, again, they don't give a fuck. And so not everybody can see that last game as they should. But yeah, man, no, we got a pretty cool shirt that we're gonna be dropping in like a week. Which is if you collect the baseball passports, like if you have that and you get the stamps from each stadium. One of my good friends, Jenny in left field, we allowed her to use our name, Baseball's Last Sidebar, for the official Coliseum stamp. And so we're taking that stamp and putting it on a T-shirt. So that'll be kind of cool. We're doing a really nice T-shirt for the last series. We're going to try to get done within the next week or two so people can start wearing it, which will honor the entire history of this A's fan culture all on one T-shirt. And so we're going to try to do our best to make a shirt that basically celebrates the history of the Oakland A's on one shirt. And so we got that final Battle of the Bay shirt that's up, which is like the A's didn't put out their own shirt. They just used the one the Giants made. And so we got that up right now. The poster's dope. But no, just know anything you buy, if you feel like supporting Last Sidebar, anything you buy from our website, we got these great Fuck John Fisher shirts. But anything you buy on our website, just know that money is going to charities. It's going to help people, and it's going to community events, which brings this fan base together. And usually they're super dope. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And our supplier that we work with is actually a small business in the South Bay. So it's two women that run a print company that started up their business in COVID, and we were their first client. And now they pay their mortgage literally with what fans purchased from our website.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So again, you guys can follow Bryan Johansson at Last Dive Bar on IG and also on Twitter. Go to lastdivebar.com, pick up that merchandise that he was talking about. You can follow Bryan himself on X at Sandlot408. Make sure you guys support the cause, and we appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back in 1 second. All right, I want to thank Bryan so much for joining us here at Table Setters. And dude, what an interview. Just the passion unparalleled. You and I are just, we were just talking in that brief break we had in between. Just couldn't even believe, the insight and just it was fantastic. I have no words for it.
That's a true fan, fan fanatic. Like, that's the passion that if you're a fan, you're going to feel. And like leading up to this interview, I've been trying to like put myself in those shoes of like if the Mets were to up and leave one day, like what would that feel like? And you really can't get yourself there. But talking to Bryan, that allows you to kind of put yourself in those shoes in that really terrible situation. And just those last couple minutes of him talking about, all his favorite memories, or I don't know, just that nostalgia of what it was like when he was a kid and what it was like later on in life and all the different generations and eras. It really is such a sad story that they are leaving these fans high and dry.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to think back, like when Montreal left, and there maybe was this feeling, but they didn't have a platform or an ability to get the information out there. I'm sure there are Montreal Expos fans that when they left for DC. It was just, they were screaming into the void. And at the very least, we can appreciate the Last Dive Bar has a platform, and he's created a movement with his equally passionate fans that are not just bonded by the Oakland Athletics, bonded by the love of baseball. And you can just tell, like, even seeing arch rivals, the Giants and the Athletics, getting together on a weekend that they're playing each other and paying tribute to the Oakland Coliseum, that speaks volumes to really what this franchise meant to not only just the city of Oakland, but baseball in general.
Yeah, and honestly, I loved the story in the beginning of the interview, just of how things came to be with the Last Dive Bar, and how at the beginning of it was kind of happenstance with him being caught on camera, like yelling and cursing at the ump after Ramon Laureano got hit. Just seemed like right place, right time, and the rest is history. But everything they said, like obviously Moneyball was a movie about the Athletics and that 20 game win streak team and all that stuff. Honestly, you could make a movie about what's going on in Oakland right now and everything that's led up to it, and who knows what happens in the future. But I got to say, after this, like, I am hoping beyond hope that scenario that he kind of mentioned happens, where, this investment group has bought the rights to the Oakland Coliseum. He says they are the kind of group where if there was some kind of opportunity for them to bring baseball back to Oakland, that they would be in it. I have to hope that happens, but obviously maybe a little bit of a long shot. But it just stinks, man. I feel like that team is not supposed to be leaving Oakland right now.
And there is precedent set. I mentioned it before to him about the Cleveland Browns when they originally went to Baltimore to determine the Ravens, and they rebranded and became the Ravens and the purple and yellow and all that. Then when Cleveland came back, people forget. I mean, they took back that history. So I know it's a different sport, different franchise, just as passionate fan base in their different ways. The Cleveland Browns did emerge from that tragedy that they were taken out of football, and maybe Oakland can do the same thing. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Maybe MLB will feel a certain type of way with baseball not there, because outside of just how badly the Oakland Athletics franchise and the fan base has been treated with this, with Rob Manfred and John Fisher and everything that went into it, is the stuff that the criticism of the on-field product of how hot it's going to be in Vegas. And oh yeah, build a stadium, and can they draw fans? Will John Fisher invest? That remains to be seen. They could have a similar issue with 103 temperature on game day if they don't do it right. Like, and it is something that people are concerned about. I've been watching these Twitter accounts track the weather in Vegas on a home game during the day when the Athletics are playing. So yeah, these are things that people aren't really thinking of. They're literally intoxicated by the lights of the Strip of Vegas. And I don't know if they're going to be wise for it 5-6 years down the line, because Oakland's different. The Athletics are different. This is a different fan base, as you mentioned, and a history that is laden with stars and franchise players and championships. This is not just a franchise to throw by the wayside.
Not at all. And Brian made a good point too of kind of painting the picture of like John Fisher and the city of Las Vegas is just not a good couple. Like, it doesn't really make sense. And he's right. Like, everything that we know about John Fisher, that's not a match right there. So they may be kind of rushing this thing, trying to get a franchise in Vegas, and they probably would have been better off, like he said, if they tried to have one of their expansion teams there and put some support behind Oakland. All the Oakland fans needed to show up before all this was retain some of your players, because like he said, they have always been good at finding some gems and bringing them up. But just like kind of like the Marlins, 2 years later, 3 years later, when their stock is up, like he said, they're gone. So yeah, as a fan, you get beaten down, and even the most passionate fans, you start not showing up. So it is, like you've said many times, it's a cautionary tale. And the other thing I loved, and we've talked a little bit about this, is, there's so many complaints about the Steve Cohens of the world and the Dodgers spending all this money and throwing it around, right? Where really the complaint should be about all these fake small market teams that are not spending enough and are pocketing money. Like the floor, there should absolutely, if there is a luxury tax where you are killing Steve Cohen for going out and spending his money on the team that he's passionate about, there should absolutely be a penalty for not spending enough.
And at the very least, to put a bow on this, they can take solace in, although they probably would have liked to make the playoffs, they would have liked to close this out in a magical year. It just wasn't to be with the product on the field. There's also some poetic nature of knowing when the last home game will be. I remember 2008, the Yankees didn't make the playoffs. One of the rare times the Yankees didn't make the playoffs, but you're able to have this, You bought the ticket. You know it's the last time the old Yankee Stadium is going to open its doors. They're going to have that. They'll have a proper goodbye, as many tears that will be shed and as heartbreaking as it will be for people to enter into that stadium for the last time. They will get, the closure of knowing it's the last game. So I know that they probably, like I said, want a magical run, but there's something poetic about saying goodbye and walking out knowing that's it.
For sure. And, who knows? Maybe it's not goodbye forever. Maybe there is a door that creaks open.
So again, we want to thank you guys so much for listening. So you're listening to this. I believe we're dropping this to start the weekend. So you have a 2-episode week. Devin will be gone. So we're not dropping our typical week, our meat of the order, all that great conversation. We'll be back the first week of September, talking all things baseball, breaking down the emergent pennant races as we really hit crunch time. As the fall gets here, we're a month away from the season ending. Some of our fantasy playoffs are coming up. So very much crunch time here in the world of baseball. And it's flown by, man. Like, this is going to be, next week will be episode 25. We're recording episode 24. This was an absolute blast doing this with you. And I'm very, very excited for the creativity that the off season will provide. I mean, October, there's a lot of great content here. And I feel like the support we're getting from guests like the Last Dive Bar and all the guests we had on the run up here covering these other teams has been awesome. And it's really just the start. So we appreciate the support on all ends at TableSettersPod on IG and X.
No doubt about it, man. We still got September and October for weekly episodes. I'm not gone for long. I'll be in Ocean City. So I'll still be keeping track of all the games. Maybe I'll talk to some Oriole fans down there. Actually, I'm going to try catching a Delmarva Shorebirds game. That's the single A team of the Baltimore Orioles. I think some of their most recent first-round picks or second-round picks are with that squad as we speak. So I'll try to post some stuff from there maybe. And we'll be back, like Steve said, the first week of September.
You trying to find that factory that the Orioles are making all these players? They're going right down to the source, right?
I'm trying to find the source. Yep.
All right. So again, you guys, if you see Devin out there, say hi to him, man. He's probably going to be rocking maybe an Ellie De La Cruz City Connect jersey if I'm picturing in my brain, right?
I mean, down there, I'm going to have to try to find a Gunner one.
Oh, hell yeah. That's your dude. I know that. If there's going to be a championship in your future in fantasy baseball, it's going to be built on the back of Gunnar Henderson this year.
You're damn right.
All right. Well, that's all we got for you today. Again, we want to thank Bryan again so much for joining us here. Make sure you guys support the Last Dive Bar. Follow him on all social media platforms at Last Dive Bar. Go to lastdivebar.com. You can support our show by going to TableSettersPod on IG. Go on the X Machine. We're about 2 followers away from 1,000. So by the time you're listening to this, hopefully we got to 1,000. Keep interacting, keep enjoying baseball, and we'll be talking to you guys after a while.
That has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by Mattingly.